Hybristophilia is a psychological phenomenon where individuals are sexually attracted to people who have committed crimes, particularly violent or extreme crimes. The term comes from the Greek word hubrizein, meaning to commit an outrage against someone, and philos, meaning loving. People with this condition may be drawn to the power, notoriety, or danger associated with the criminal, despite the inherent risks and moral implications. Ted Bundy, Charles Manson, the Night Stalker Richard Ramirez, and Chris Watts are a few examples of this phenomenon. Background: Cameron Herrin, born on September 9, 1999, became widely known due to a tragic and high-profile criminal case involving a car accident. This incident took place in Tampa, Florida on the 3rd of March, 2018. At the time of the incident, Cameron was an 18-years-old high school student who later attended the University of Tampa. Due to Cameron Herrin and his friends' reckless behavior, a young mother of 24 and her baby daughter of 1 year of age died in a car accident.
And I just know boys are totally are wired differently. They are risk takers. They act on impulse. It's their wiring. Their wiring is totally different. And all my years of teaching, boys just do things on impulse. And I believe that they truly believe nothing's ever going to happen badly. I can't imagine what you've gone through. But I want you to know what a fine young man he is. It has been devastating for him and our family. And that I hope you can find in your heart to forgive Cameron and have leniency.
I'm basing it on an understanding of science and medicine. I don't have to do a brain scan on a 2-year-old to know that that 2-year-old has a 2-year-old brain. It's just silly. I don't need to do a brain scan on him to know that he has an 18-year-old brain.
But he was 18. He wasn't 2, right? He was 18 when he committed the crime, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. But again, so you based it all on literature. Nothing that you've studied of his physical person or anything like that that would lead you to give the opinion that he failed to have the capacity to understand the dangerous situation he created prior to the crash, right?
No, I based it on the fact that he's 18 years old. I haven't excuse me, can I answer? Sure. I haven't suggested in any way at all that I made a specific, detailed assessment of his brain functioning. I know things about how an 18-year-old brains function. The testimony that we heard today here is absolutely consistent with all of the information that I gathered, upon which I reached my conclusion. Doing a brain scan might give us an opportunity to put up pretty pictures and say, this is how the brain works, these are the colors, this is what goes on. That's not the point here. The point here is the testimony that we've heard, the information I gathered with him with many hours of work. This is not, if you will, from the legal point of view, a brain scan case. Your question just is not relevant. He's an individual, and all of the things that I've just referenced are related to him as an individual.
So tell me what individually about this person tells us that he lacks the capacity, other than the fact that he was 18 years old.
All of the things that we've heard in court today.
No.
That his character, I finish?
You had to know things before you came into court today, didn't you?
Pardon me?
You had to know things before you came in here to court today, right? To formulate an opinion?
Absolutely.
So I want to know what, prior to hearing today, what did you learn about this individual that allows you to give that opinion?
All of the things that I have heard confirmed here in court today. Those things are related to his character, his pattern of behavior, his social interactions with other people, his willingness to put other people's interests before his interests, his concern and empathy for creatures, human beings and raccoons, his ability to gather and interact with a social network that finds him to be valuable and useful, his willingness to trade his life, as he told me and as he told a friend, for the victims in this case. All of these things are part of his unique character that are the basis of my opinion. I could go through the list more extensively.
No, the point I'm making is that everything that you learned was all through your ears, right? Through hearsay, through things you heard other people say, things that you heard him tell you after he committed the crime, right? That's all I'm getting at. You didn't base it on anything physical, like something that you could put up a picture of his brain and say, hey, look, everybody, his brain's underdeveloped and this is why. You didn't do any of that, right?
That was a very complex question. Do you think maybe you could make it a little clearer to me?
Doc, did you rely on anything other than what you heard?
Yes.
What?
What I saw,
What did you see?
I saw him cry in my office.
Okay,
I saw
that's
other
talking
people
about
cry in
remorse.
my office.
I'm focused
I
more
saw
on the
pictures of
capacity.
the accident scene.
I'm focused more on the capacity.
I will do my best to answer a clear question. I don't understand the question.
I think it's pretty simple, but my question is, do you agree that everything that you're testifying to formulate an opinion on capacity is based on things that were told to you and based on other things that you've read in books and studied?
And seen with my own eyes.
Okay.
Is it based on my perceptions? Yes, it's based on my perceptions.
Okay.
The accident. On May 23, 2018, Cameron Herrin was driving a Ford Mustang and was racing another vehicle driven by his friend John Barrineau. John Barrineau was 17 years old at the time of the incident and was driving a Nissan. The Ford Mustang that Cameron was driving was brand new. The car was a gift from his parents after graduating from high school. Cameron started racing John Barrineau in Tampa's Bayshore Boulevard, a few blocks from where he lived. Tampa's Bayshore Boulevard is a well-known popular spot for pedestrians. It is the longest continuous sidewalk in the world. At the time of the accident, Cameron's brother Tristan was in the passenger seat beside him. Witnesses and evidence indicated that Herrin and Barrineau were traveling at over 100 miles per hour shortly before the crash. The speed limit on the road at that time was 45 miles per hour. Jessica Reisinger-Robinalt, a 24-year-old mother of a 21-month-old daughter Lilia, was trying to cross the road at the time of the accident. Later, the police described the crossing as a lawful crossing. Jessica was pushing her daughter Lilia on a baby cart at the moment Herrin and Barrineau rushed in her direction. There is evidence that indicates that Jessica tried to save her daughter's life before the impact by pushing the baby cart out of the way. But unfortunately, in the end, this was not enough to save the baby's life, and both the mother and daughter died due to the injuries. Jessica was pronounced dead on scene, while little Lilia succumbed to her wounds on the next day. Both Herrin and Barrineau were charged with vehicular homicide, reckless driving, and illegal street racing.
In April of 2018, my husband and I gave Cameron a new car for his high school graduation. It was a black Mustang, as you've mentioned several times. We gave Tristan a brand new truck for his high school graduation. That was what we did as parents, is we gave them a new car or a new truck, but what was reasonable that we could afford. On May 23rd, 2018, less than a month later, I received a frantic, distressed call from Cameron. And he told me he had been involved in an accident. And it was clear to me that he was crying. And I kept him on the phone until I could get to the scene, helping him work his way through it. I said, it's going to be okay. I promise you, I'm on my way. And we talked that time, and it took me less than 5 minutes to get to the scene of the accident. And he said, Mom, I've killed someone. And I said, no, Cameron, it's just, at that point, it wasn't even clear to me how the accident what had taken place. I said, no, Cameron, no, you're mistaken. It's going to be okay. I feel responsible for this accident, and I accept full accountability for my actions. if I could, I would step in front of Cameron and I would accept the punishment that you might render. That's how strong I feel about my involvement or my actions that led to this accident, perhaps.
Judge, I have just a statement that I'm going to read on behalf of Cameron Herrin.
Yes, sir.
And to begin, I would like to apologize to the family that lost two beautiful souls. The amount of remorse, sorrow, and regret that I feel is unfathomable.
The TikTok sensation. Because we live in an alternative reality ruled by a generation of social media influencers with a disturbing set of moral values and no brain power, Cameron Herrin became a celebrity on TikTok and other social media platforms. In these videos, mostly done by shallow young women with questionable moral values, the influencers express strong feelings of sympathy for Herrin due to his age and good looks. Hashtags such as Justice for Cameron and Cameron is Innocent trended during the trial period and attracted the attention of billions of viewers. Nevertheless, there is still hope for humanity, because a large portion of the comments posted called out these influencers for their hypocrisy and lack of common sense.
If you've seen this guy's face like all over TikTok, here's what's going on. His name's Cameron Herrin. He hit and killed a mother and child going over 100 miles an hour during an illegal street race. He was recently sentenced to 24 years in prison. Now, people on the internet and on TikTok specifically think that this punishment's too harsh and that he deserves a second chance. Here are some of the comments. Poor boy, I hope they will forgive him. He looks innocent. He didn't do it on purpose. No, it wasn't an accident. He doesn't deserve that. This one. You're too cute. I fell in love with a criminal. There's a petition going around with over 27,000 signatures to get him out of jail. And there's even people on TikTok using the hashtag imitating his look from the sentencing. Multiple people.
The trial. John Barano accepted a plea deal in December 2020, receiving a 6-year prison sentence followed by 15 years of probation. Cameron Herrin took a different approach and chose to go to trial. To respond to the claims that Cameron did not deserve to be severely punished for having done only a mistake during trial, prosecutors presented evidence that Cameron had the bad habit of speeding. Days prior to the accident, Cameron was driving at 162 miles per hour or 260 kilometers per hour on Interstate 75.
I just paused it there. Is that first vehicle that we see in that bottom enhanced portion, is that the Ford Mustang just prior to the collision?
It is.
And then I couldn't stop it, but let me play it again. But the vehicle that we see right behind him, is that the Nissan Altima?
It is.
And did you determine during your investigation that those vehicles, based on this video and based on the witness statements, appeared to be very close to each other prior to the impact?
They were.
Okay. But was the Ford Mustang the vehicle ahead of the Nissan Altima?
The Mustang was in front, yes.
And was there any evidence during your investigation that the Nissan Altima had struck either victim in this case?
No, there's no evidence of that.
Was there any damage to his vehicle indicating that he had struck anything that
No
pertained to
damage.
this crash?
No damage pertaining to this crash.
And was there incidences that is documented here on this spreadsheet of prior incidents, May 18th, May 20th, May 21st, May 22nd, where that Mustang vehicle was driving at excessive rates of speed?
Yes, that's correct.
And the rates of speed, are those indicated next to the AM, for example, in the very first one on 518 at 92 miles an hour?
Correct.
And did the Burla data, was it able to give you data points where you could find out GPS locations to see where that vehicle was in fact driving at those speeds?
It was. It gave a Latin long coordinate.
And is that indicated over there on the right side where it says I-75 South?
It is.
And on that day on 518, we even see at 9:18 a.m. that vehicle traveling, according to the data, approximately 162 miles an hour down I-75.
Correct.
And then was there also data looking down at the bottom of that vehicle traveling on Bayshore Boulevard on May 21st, reaching speeds, for example, at 11:02 a.m. at 80 miles an hour?
Correct.
And then on 5/22, 11:35 a.m., which would have been the day prior, almost 24 hours and a couple minutes, correct?
Correct.
That vehicle on Bayshore Boulevard traveling at 84 miles an hour.
That's correct.
Did you also observe, as part of your investigation, did you download the phones that belonged to Cameron Herrin, John Baronow, and Tristan Herrin?
I did.
And part of the investigation into the phones by Cameron Herrin, did you observe what's in the next slide were some text messages on April 23rd talking about the driving of Cameron Herrin?
I did.
And up on the screen there, is that accurate that there was an outgoing message from that 813 number stating, IGHT, bet Cam, you're going to take veterans? And the response from Cameron Herrin's number, were we able to verify that was Cameron Herrin's number based on the download and seizure of his phone?
I was.
And him saying, of course, the Stang gotta let loose.
Correct.
The vehicle that we just saw in the investigation, that was a Ford Mustang, correct?
That's correct. Did that necessitate a change in your residence?
Yes, we had to sell our house.
Sorry?
Yes, we had to sell our house.
And you moved to another?
And we moved to a much
location.
smaller house, about a third of the size and a third of the value.
Was there an exclusion in the umbrella policy that would cause the insurance company to absolutely decline to pay that money?
Yes, there's an exclusion for racing on the plug. And they render, when we ask for coverage under the plug and payment to be rendered, the insurance company said they needed to do a full investigation. They only would handle it under a reservation of rights. And the reservation of rights stated that if racing was found to be true, there would be no $5 million payment rendered. I think at one point 5 different attorneys hired to try to make sure that the money benefits were provided to the families that suffered the great loss.
Now, the Herrins did not declare bankruptcy, is that correct?
That's correct.
And why didn't you?
Because I felt like it was the wrong thing to do. I just did not want to declare bankruptcy because it just wasn't right. And I was willing to stand up and be responsible.
I almost want to say thank you for doing it because the effort to bring up that wrongful death settlement in an attempt to persuade the judge to soften the sentence and soften justice for this horrific crime it cements in my mind the true character of that family. Remorse and responsibility effort, attempt to bring that to bear here after 3 years. I mean, the early and absurd attempt to get driving privileges reinstated. Then they proceeded to delay justice with a lengthy and slow deposition process. Then threatened to deposition me to conduct forensic search of Jessica's mobile phone. It just, my view, that's a very unremorseful attempt to find a way to place blame in her direction. The morning that I sat and watched the gentleman download the phone, I received via email the motion to suppress the information from the Ford Mustang infotainment system. And I can't tell you how sick to my stomach I got that day. And it basically was an effort to suppress the truth. Now, how can you today bring in people to give testimony that you've been remorseful, you know, from day one, when this is just several months ago that the effort was made to completely skirt your responsibility for this crime.
Jessica was my daughter. Lilia was my granddaughter.
And is there something that you want to tell the court that the court should consider prior to rendering a sentence in this case?
There is. We've heard a lot today about qualities in a person. And my daughter and my granddaughter possessed all those qualities too. When I hear about listening to your child wake up with screams in the middle of the night for a few months, we're going on 3 years and we hear those screams. They can comfort their child. They can go to them and hug them. I go to a closet and sniff a t-shirt. I go to a baby picture and stroke her cheeks to comfort her. You hear about remorse and regret and there's sympathy. And when they say that they wish they could switch places with them, and we all know that's not possible. If you're willing to switch places with them, why aren't you willing to do your sentence? It's still your life. We hear about 18-year-old boys that are careless and boneheaded by his teacher's words, not of Cameron, but of other students, and that Cameron was bright. I've raised 2 sons that were 18-year-olds, and yes, they might have been a little immature, but they know consequences.
Sentence. Cameron Herrin pled guilty in 2020 to the charges and let the judge decide his fate. The state was advocating for an 18-year prison sentence, while the maximum that Herrin could receive was 30 years. In April 2021, Herrin was sentenced to 24 years in prison for the deaths of Jessica and Lilia. Cameron Herrin filed an appeal to reduce the sentence, but this appeal was denied in 2022 and the sentence upheld. He is currently serving his sentence at the Graceville Correctional Facility in Graceville, Jackson County, Florida.